As Aaron said, we were in Lima, Peru back in November. And I have to be honest with you guys, every time I get the chance to go out of the country, God really does some amazing things in my life and in my heart. And this time was very special. I got to meet my sponsored child, Isabel, through Compassion. And as we were in the bus heading over to the project, if you notice in the packets back there, there's a picture of the child. And so I'm studying my picture like crazy because I want to know what Isabel looks like when I get to this church, because there's usually 100 kids at these projects and they're going crazy, and I just wanted to be able to pick her out and just give her a big hug and a kiss on the cheek and just love on her all I could. And I was one of the first ones out of the bus, and I couldn't see her anywhere, but this little girl came running up to me and she grabbed my hand, and it was the cutest little girl. And I'm like, well, you're not Isabel, but you're cute, so let's go. So we were running around, and I was taking pictures of her, and I'd show it to her. They just love seeing pictures of themselves on digital cameras because they don't really get to see pictures of themselves very often. And so we hung out for a little bit. Well, it came time for us to come into the church. The children had a presentation for us, and the pastor wanted to talk to us. And then after that, we were going to get to meet our sponsor kids. So I said goodbye to my little friend. I walked into the church. And after the pastor got done, it came time for us to meet our kids. And I knew Isabel was close because I saw Aaron's sponsored girl, Kiara. And unknowingly, Aaron and I sponsored sisters in Lima, Peru, out of all places. So it's pretty awesome to have best friends sponsoring two girls in the same family. I just thought that was really cool. So I knew Isabel was close, and I couldn't find her anywhere, and I saw Kiara. So we went over to meet Kiara, and their mother was there, and I was like, well, where's Isabel? And then this little girl comes running up and gives me the biggest hug, and it was the little girl from the very beginning that had grabbed my hand. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And we got to hang out for a couple hours, just me and her and an interpreter, and I got to give her all the gifts that my wife had bought her. And if you saw in the video, I got to give her a boa. Well, Chad's wife, Stephanie, had sent this to Chad. In this suitcase, she's like, I don't know who'll need this, but just take this. And so Chad knew I sponsored a little girl, so he gave it to me. And I don't know about you guys, but universally, I think a boa transforms little girls into princesses when they're that age. So she was the sassiest little Peruvian woman I ever met in my life. And she was my Peruvian princess for the rest of the day. And I got to sit there and I got to listen to her dreams. She's 6 years old, and I got to listen to her dreams of wanting to be a lawyer one day, to fight for the people, to bring justice to the people of Peru. She's 6. And I got to learn that her favorite color was pink, and if she could be an animal, she'd be a cat. And it was some of the most amazing time with the child. And I asked her why she came up to me in the beginning. And she just looked at me nonchalantly, and she told the translator in Spanish, and the translator told me, she said, I saw him and saw that he was good. And at that moment, I realized God was confirming everything that I was doing through speaking for compassion and being a life partner with this little girl to sponsor her through these compassion projects. And after that, her mother actually invited us to come to their house, which was a big deal for her, to have us be a guest at their house. And so we walked up the mountain to her house. And this is not a house that you and I are used to. This was a 15 by 15 foot shack about the size of this stage that 9 people actually lived in. There was 5 beds and 15 by 15 foot house. 1 light bulb hanging from the ceiling, no refrigerator, no running water, no bathroom or anything. And I have to admit, these people were some of the most joyful and most happy people I've ever met and seen in my life. And I really believe that since these kids were in the Compassion Project, it brought hope to these children, because these children were getting meals every week. They're getting an education in a country that people normally don't get education. And as it came time for me to leave, Aaron had already left and started walking down the mountain, and Isabel just yelled something to me in Spanish 3 times. And I didn't know what she said. And the translator looked at me, and she's like, Isabel is saying, remember me, remember me, remember me. And I look tough with tattoos and beard. Usually I try to act tough, but I really cry a lot. And you can ask my wife, I cry through episodes of like One Tree Hill and stuff. And so I admit it, I'm sorry. So I was just bawling at the joy that God had brought to my heart through this, because I really think that he was saying to this 6-year-old Peruvian girl, he's saying, not only remember her, but remember the children across this world that are living in poverty. Remember God's heart for the poor. And every time I speak for compassion, it takes me to this verse, and it says, it's James 1:27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And I think sometimes our generation, your generation and my generation, I think are pretty close and in the same generation, that we try to focus on staying unstained from the world. That's where we focus on, but we don't really focus on that first half of that verse and meeting the widows and orphans in their affliction. And I think through compassion and you and I, people like you and I, teaming up with compassion can meet those widows and orphans in their affliction. I just encourage you guys to go out to the compassion booth and look at those children and pray about joining. There's thousands of students like you guys around this country that sponsor children like Isabel on a monthly basis. And if they can't afford it by themselves, they join up with some of their best friends to say, you know, I want to help this child. So let's take our $10 out of our each take $10 out of our Starbucks allowance, and we're going to put it towards sponsoring this child. I'm not asking you guys to change the entire world on your own. That's impossible. What I'm asking you to do is to bring hope to just one child. And when you bring hope to that one child, hope brings progress. And when you bring progress, change will soon follow. And the question I think we have to ask ourselves is this: are we willing to make the small sacrifice needed to make a huge impact in the life of a child like Isabel around this world? I just ask you guys to pray about that and think about that. Lisa has some other information for you guys.